Okay, I think we're live. We're a little late, but we're live. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's now 4:12 by my watch p.m. I'd like to call a regular meeting of the Urban Growth Boundary Sphere of Influence to order on Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. I have an announcement. It is a teleconference notice. I'm supposed to read this, I believe, correct? Okay. And this is related to the fact that one of our committee members is joining us remotely via Zoom. Basically, she'll be joining us remotely from outside the United States. Pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953B3, this Urban Growth Sphere of Influence regular meeting will include teleconference participation by committee member Jackie Morris Lopez from Amsterdam 181, Hippodromo, Guatemoc, Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico 06170. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too badly.
No, that was excellent.
Thank you. Thank you. The teleconference location shall be accessible to the public for the open session portion of the meeting pursuant to California Government Code Section 54954.3. That means that anybody that wishes to attend the meeting with Jackie from Mexico City can go to that address and do so. And I've also been told that it is imperative, Jackie, that you leave your camera on at all times. Thank you.
Yes.
So now we will commence the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand? Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Could we please have a roll call?
Committee Member DeBreeze. Committee Member Frios. Committee Member Maderos.
Here.
Committee Member Morris Lopez.
Here.
And Chair Martirana.
I'm here. Terrific. Now we will allow public comment on items not on the agenda this afternoon. Do we have any public comment? There's none here in the room. I don't see any hands online, so we will commence with the consent. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. Anybody want to pull anything for a separate vote or discussion? Or do we have anything from anyone from the public that would like us to pull any items? Okay, is there a motion? Second? Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry.
So moved. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. With a motion from committee member Morris Lopez, a second from committee member DeVries to accept the consent agenda, we have a roll call vote.
Committee Member DeBreeze.
I feel like a trained monkey up here.
Yes.
Committee Member Maderos.
Yes.
Committee Member Morris Lopez.
Yes.
And Chair Martirana.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, review.
Mr. Chair, do you want to introduce the person to sitting to the right of the city manager?
I'll let Don do that.
Sure. This is Zane from EMC. He's working on the infill project.
Okay, great. Great. Welcome, Dane.
And also online, we have Jennifer, whom you met at our last meeting, the executive director of LAFCO.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, this is, committee member Morris Lopez. Who was the gentleman from EMC?
My name is Zane Mortensen with EMC Planning Group. I am just off to the screen sitting next to Don.
Okay, I'm not able to see the attendees in the meeting. So I'm sorry, you're not visible to me.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I think he's gonna move
He's
up
gonna move up
to,
next to Dan.
Okay.
Scott's
Zane.
spot at the days, just for expediency's sake.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. You bet. That's right.
Okay. I'm just making a couple of notes. MC, so,
Can you see him now, Jackie?
Yes, thank you, Dan.
You bet.
okay, so item number 4 on our agenda, review and discuss. First off, continue to discuss the planning area policies. I think we should change the order of this unless there's some objection, and maybe let Zane kick off with the, or is there a method to the madness?
No,
Any
these are the
reason?
2 focus areas right now.
Okay, any objection to letting Zane speak at this point on infill? No, Dan?
No,
No, not at all.
Okay, all right, why don't we turn it over to you, Zane?
Okay.
So the subject matter is the status of the infill development framework.
Yes, so the city recently went into contract with EMC Planning Group to develop a framework strategy, infill development framework. That would really look at how we can promote infill development within the city boundaries. What's the city's existing capacity with its vacant or underutilized lots? How we can meet the requirements of the general plan and housing element, which looks like a 1.9% population growth over the lifespan of the current general plan. And so we are going to be developing a strategy on how to meet that within the city, and then doing a really refined look through the existing plan and providing strike-through recommendations of changes, edits, and additional policy recommendations, possibly goals, etc.
That's the general plan, correct?
That is a
That plan.
strike-through amendment of the general plan, a targeted general plan amendment that would be basically could move forward for adoption and support infill within the city as opposed to outside expansion. Mhm.
And, and what is the, what are your milestones on that deliverable?
That is a good question. We hope to have a draft prepared near the end of April for review. And at that point, we'll start with
Reviewed by you.
for your review, correct. And at that point, what we're going to do is we'll have a draft available that we can start taking to community meetings. We have 1 community engagement event planned, 2 city council meetings, and 2 planning commission meetings for review and refinement of our proposed general plan amendments.
So, walk us through those events. So first up is the UGB committee. Is that what you said?
No, the UGB committee, I think the information everyone is working on is crucial to the general plan amendment. As you all know, we started this community plan process because the boundaries in the existing general plan didn't match with the proposed LAFCO boundaries.
That's right.
So now what we're doing is we're proposing a strategy that supports future growth within the city in the defined boundaries that are recommended by this committee.
I'm just looking for dates right now, buddy.
So for dates, probably sometime May, we would have our first community outreach meeting.
No, let's start with the first time that we as UGB committee members will see it. When's that date?
Probably April. I don't have an exact date, but near the end of April.
Okay, that's fine. And then May, you said what's gonna happen in May?
May would be the start of the community engagement activities.
Community engagement, okay.
Now, we do have a rough schedule in the proposal we provided. That would show the draft prepared right about the beginning of April. I think that is still fairly consistent. But I would say sometime mid to late April, you will have a draft ready to review yourself.
Okay,
And then after that point, community engagement will begin.
so this committee is going to have an opportunity to see this thing before it is broadcast to the community, planning commission, city council, et cetera.
Yes.
Is that right? And then if this committee, like David, for example, if he has some comments on what he sees in the draft, will there be time to incorporate that into the deliverable?
Absolutely, yeah, that is the hope, to get your feedback and input on what we provided so we can make those revisions.
Fantastic, that sounds good. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Do you have any more for us?
That is all we have on the infill development framework in general plan amendment.
So it's
Just a brief summary of the status, yeah, unless
Okay.
anyone else
No.
had any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Jackie, any questions?
No, I think, my questions will probably, come about after we look at the first draft, documents.
Okay, David?
Yeah, so we get involved, we get to see this before, the engagement before the public, that kind of a thing. So, okay, so if this is not the actual schedule, are we gonna get a copy of something that's more refined?
This is very consistent with what the actual
Okay.
schedule will be,
Okay.
some slight modifications to it and deliverable deadlines, but this is still fairly consistent.
Okay, got it.
Right.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, Dan, anything else? I have no questions. The next item on our calendar, our agenda is public comments. Do we have any public comments? There's none in the room, of course. Do we have anybody out in Zoom land with any questions or comments?
If anybody in Zoom wishes to make a public comment, please use the hand raise button. Seeing no hands raised, Chair.
Okay, then let's move to community engagement and schedule. I think you covered that reasonably well, but you mentioned only the beginning of the community meetings starting in May. How long do you envision that process? Is it a couple, you said it was 2 or 3 meetings?
We have a total of 5 meetings planned.
Okay,
One is going to be an actual community engagement.
okay,
It'll be a similar workshop, similar to the one we had when developing the community
Sure.
plan.
okay.
Then 2 planning commission meetings and 2 city council meetings.
Okay, thank you.
And what turn on the microphone on? Is that a problem? Jackie can't hear in Mexico City, where she's
Yeah.
going, where you're going to the best restaurants in the freaking North America, I think, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you are. Your son is a chef. What can we expect for these community meetings? Like, for example, I know Michael Gross did a couple community meetings at the San Juan School in the gymnasium
Mhm.
and brought in Dan Burden from Washington. And then there was another one at the VFW. Are these the type of community meetings that you envision for this process?
Yes, maybe not quite as extensive as the one in the school. But it's going to be a similar concept where we're going to showcase our plans to facilitate the population growth within the city and get the community's feedback on those. We're gonna mainly look at development within vacant underutilized lots, but it may also include density increases, zoning mixed use in commercial zones, promoting mixed use development, and just trying to gauge the community's feelings on those types of changes in the general plan.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
And Sharon, as I recall, something that came up recently at the planning commission was the height of the building.
Mhm.
Right, and right now we have a policy restricting it to everything to 2 stories, is that what I recall?
I don't believe there's a story limitation. I believe it is
Height-
just a height
a
in
height
feet.
limitation. So we'll have a chance to talk about those kinds of restrictions?
Absolutely.
Because if we want to do multifamily and increase the density in our properties, we might have to go higher.
Yeah, to get the density or the population growth without going outside of the city. Now, we don't exactly know. We haven't completed the infill strategy at this point. But increased height limitations may be one of those things. So,
In fact, it was the housing project on Third Street that we were talking about, and perhaps
It was.
Commissioner Reeves, we had 3-story townhomes behind single-family homes.
And, you know, there's ancillary things that go along with that too, Don, that I've been mindful of, such as a story pool requirement. I've gotten some feedback from community members and the press actually, regarding what's it gonna look like. And I know a lot of communities like Carmel by the Sea, for example, have a story pool requirement, which I think we know what that means, don't we?
I have no idea what that means.
It means 2x4s stuck in the ground with that orange netting
Uh-huh.
on the top.
Ah,
And when you
gotcha,
drive by it, you think, what in the devil is that?
gotcha.
Well, that's supposed to kind of give an indication of what this building is going to look like
Love the idea.
once built.
Yeah, love
It
the
gives
idea.
observers a chance to look at that
Yep.
and say, that's too tall. Or the massing
Yeah.
is wrong, or it's too big. And San Juan
Mm.
Bautista, the city of San Juan Bautista does not have a provision for that right now
Right.
in our municipal code. But I think we need to look at that as we talk about things like density.
Yeah.
What does it look like? And that has come up in the project that you mentioned.
And in that
I just wanna-
case, oh, the 3
possible-
stories by the hillside, yeah.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Also, yeah, sorry, I don't see my raise hand icon, but I think another thing that we need to take a look at in absence of not having an ordinance that strictly outlines, story limit or height, or I guess height we have. What about our safety as well? We have really old water connections for fire suppression. So I think, importantly, you have to discuss, have a meeting with our fire chief, fire department, safety code officer, because when you increase density, we're talking about a city that has old infrastructure and some of it can't be mitigated.
Yeah, I think your point's well taken. The fire department doesn't have a ladder truck. We're not gonna budget for a ladder truck in San Juan Bautista. I can't imagine that that's gonna happen. And
And-
the road, I believe I know the development of which you guys are speaking, and I think that one of the provisions in their proposal is for a relatively narrow road, which also affects fire protection, the ability for the fire department to get in there, all those things. So, and I know that you have, at some point, they do get consulted, but in the case of the height, that seems like one they should be involved in early in the conversation.
And also the water pressure, in some of the neighborhoods, the fire hydrants are a lot smaller in diameter than what you normally would see. So that also affects the ability to suppress fires if we're talking about increased density, mixed use residential changes.
It's a great point.
Mhm.
Absolutely a great point. I live on 4th Street. We've
Yep.
got big, real modern fire hydrants. 3rd Street, they do not have adequate fire hydrants, and nothing that would be considered a modern standard. Don, you had something you wanted to add?
Oh, no, just the location is important.
Yeah.
These 3-story townhomes were proposed against the hillside,
Uh-huh.
so they weren't gonna be blocking view, that type of thing.
Gotcha,
So,
gotcha.
you know, Each case would be considered on its own merit, so.
Yeah, no, I think that's where Dan's what did you call it? Pole blocking? or
Story pools,
Story poles.
story
That's a
pools,
great
and,
idea.
and they tell the story.
Right.
Right. And in that case, I agree with you, Don, and that's why I have done my best to allay the fears of community members who have come to me saying, like, 3 stories, what are you talking about? Well, it's kind of, you're not going to see it, but I don't want them to take my word for it. I would love to have a story pool provision somewhere in our ordinances so that we can show them, so that the story can be told. You agree with me, Zane? Zane says it's a smart idea. I agree,
David?
especially on our hillside ordinance, by the way, Don.
Yeah.
Don Reynolds, especially on construction with hillsides. Story poles become very important.
Dan, or excuse me, David, did you have?
No, no comments at this time.
Okay.
Just listening. So far, so good.
Good. Thank you. Okay, any public comment then on the community engagement and schedule? We have no hands raised in or outside the building. So we're gonna move right on to 4A, continue to discuss the planning area policies.
Thank you, Chair. I had a chance to go back through my notes of our last meeting in some detail and remembered some of the thoughts that I had personally as we went through a really productive discussion that Dan helped lead the way, talking about a planning area and the policies associated with it. And it was proposed that we have 3 different areas, a blue, an orange, and a yellow area, concentric circles around the city's political boundaries, and then create policies unique for each area. Should a project be proposed in that area, then it would give direction to the county. And the county was at that meeting, and Ariel is on this call again today. Thank you for coming, Ariel. We should allow you to speak if you want to. Yeah, she has a privilege to speak. Yeah, okay, great, okay. As I reviewed the other policies that we had considered before, almost a year ago now, I was favoring it. I mean, in my mind, an MOU is a temporary tool. We entered into an MOU with the city of Hollister, and then 2 years later, we went into a 40-year agreement to send our wastewater to Hollister. So that 40-year agreement is rock solid, and be difficult for future councils, to overturn that agreement, and especially future councils in Hollister that we don't have any control or say over. And so I've noticed that both the Sonoma example, Ventura example that we talked about, they used ordinances, but they first took it to the polls. They had a ballot initiative approved, Measure A and Measure S. I don't know, we don't have a volatile situation as they must have had in those 2 counties about growth and growth control. I don't know that a measure on a ballot is needed or justified at this time. But I do want to consider or ask the committee's consideration for a permanent agreement, or if not an ordinance that's shared between the 2 agencies. And I talked with John about this, John Giffen, our city attorney who's on this call, and asked him to think about what the best tools may be. And then I cited some of the components and findings that are in these ordinances. And boy, Sonoma, what do they want to do? They want to preserve their history as a mission city. Like, hello, steal that one, plug it into ours.
Exactly. Right.
So I think there is some good stuff there. But I don't know if the committee wanted to go to that level of detail that Dan was suggesting, if we thought that it would be productive or useful. And so I'm happy I just wanted to have that conversation one more time so we can give John some direction about what kind of tool we want to use. Let's get an MOU in right away to protect what we have, and then think about the 40-year picture of how we want it to look. down the road.
Sure. I'd like to address it first, if you don't mind.
Well, I just wanted to.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to, before I look forward to hearing your comments, Chris. But I just wanted to say that, Don, I think that approach is a great one. Which I interpret what you just said to be, I'll call it a stopgap with an MOU while we work on ordinances and other, more macro things. But what can we do now? And then with an eye towards the future. So thank you for those comments. I really received them well. Chris, sorry.
I think where I get tripped up, I think, is that we're making. So I'm no legal expert, obviously. I'm a salesman, and you know what they say about salesmen: those who can't do teach, and those who can't teach sell. So that's where I am. I'm a salesman. And so I think we've used the term MOU or MOA, assuming that that was a permanent solution. If that isn't the right term to use, we're essentially talking about an agreement that ran in perpetuity. And that's the intent, right? That was the intent of what we were trying to create. If we should come up with an MOU that's a temporary solution that sort of gets us through to whatever a more permanent solution is, in essence, it's the same thing to me. I don't feel strongly about it either way. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is put in that protection that would be it would be a long-term, whatever the long-term solution is. So that is the direction I think we're looking for from John and potentially the county council as well. What, you know, what does that look like? And if we're using the wrong technical term, just understand that the intent is for it to be, whether we've called it an MOU, the intent is to create something that is lasts in perpetuity. I don't know, you know, I certainly have concerns. I'm sure others have concerns about this getting lost in the shuffle at the county, right? That we're going to be very dependent on the county to process and create something where we have a much, I think, a much higher level of concern about about the subject matter. How do we translate that urgency to the county? And that's where I think some of our concerns lie as we move this thing forward.
But if I may just segue onto the chairman's comments, I think that's where the MOU fills that void. And Ariel, I don't know if you're on the call, and if you are, maybe you'll endorse my statement here. Things can get put on the back burner at the county until they expire, way past their expiration date. And I think that there's a sense of urgency here with the city of San Juan Bautista to protect our boundaries and to prevent urban sprawl. That is not maybe, in other words, our sense of urgency with this would not be matched with the county. And that's fine. And that's fine. So the paradigm of doing an ordinance with a countywide ordinance, et cetera, great. But in the meanwhile, if we can have an MOU as a stopgap between now and then, whenever that day may come, when the county enacts ordinances, I think that's, as the city manager pointed out, that's the way to go. Ariel, what do you think?
I think that Abraham's on here as well. You know, we would have to, you know, review with our county council, and then we would have to, you know, bring it, you know, to the board. So I'm not the final say on anything, but staff is happy to, you know, collaborate with the city of San Juan Bautista and look at putting something forward, you know, to the board. Abraham, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that's well said. Thank you so much. Happy to be here with everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
both.
being here, Abraham.
Thank you both. Jackie has her hand up.
Oh, yeah, I agree that we need a stopgap, but I also have kind of, you know, felt the pulse of the current climate, and things have happened very positively at the county board of supervisors level, and also the county planning commissioners, to really take a look at preserving ag land and open spaces by removing from the general plan the new community planning areas, which included our area to the west and also to the east. So there are 5 areas. If maybe Mr. Prado or Ariel, Ms. Goodspeed could speak to that. But I think, you know, yes, I think there's an urgency, but I think this is also the prime time to really work with the county and also work with our designated county supervisor. He represents us at that level. And they've all were in support of it. It was a 5-0, I think 4-1 vote. There was one supervisor that did not vote in favor of removing that from the general plan. And there's been a lot of updates about ag land being preserved, land trust grants, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, we're in a really opportune time, but I think we have to go to our legal counsel to really get the wording and the documentation correct.
Okay, thank you. David, did you have anything? Any questions?
No, I like the idea of going forward with the MOU or MOA. It's a good idea because if you're worried about urgency, you can put that into your memorandum of understanding. It's an urgency. I think anything that we want to direct the final outcome has to be initiated in an MOU, so to speak, that no one's surprised where we're coming from and where we want to end up,
Right.
as far as that goes. So that's the nail right there to get things started, and I'm for that. I think that's the best way to go. And then it'll come back to us and tell us where we need to go to finalize that, whether it's gonna be an ordinance or not, or whatever. We can even go forward with a resolution if that's the case, to get, whatever we need to do. But I think we're on the right footing right here.
Okay.
And hopefully that, in our instructions as we go forward is, we want to take out the ambiguity, the complexity of where we need to go, instead of, to make sure that we're on the right footing if we're gonna put anything, to its finality.
Okay.
And I think that can be written, in the beginning,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
You've already drafted something.
Pardon me?
You've already drafted something.
Yeah,
He's already working on the ordinance.
yeah.
Jackie, do you have something else or
I'm trying to get my hand to go down. Sorry, guys.
no problem?
And
Sure.
through the chair, since I have Ariel and Abraham and John on the same call, get me up to date. The special study areas in the San Benito County General Plan were removed. Is that true?
That is correct. This is Ariel Goodspeed. So that is correct. It does take from the time the board approves the general plan amendment. Abraham, is there a 30-day period for codification or not? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's my understanding. It was a resolution though, not necessarily an ordinance. Usually with the ordinance is 30 days, but it was at the February 6th meeting. And that is correct that the board did take the recommendation from the Planning Commission, as Councilmember Jackie indicated, and it was a 4-1 vote to remove. I have a map of that area. What I could do is I can send it to Don. I have Don's email, and
Yeah,
and I have
Abraham,
yours, Dan as well.
that's fantastic. I was on the San Benito County Planning Commission at the time that this was created, and I had huge objections to it. So the fact that they have now been removed is very welcome news to me. If you could share your screen, Abraham, and show for the other committee members, there were certain areas in San Benito County that were designated in the San Benito County General Plan as special study, meaning future cities or future growth. And they were all, each one of these areas was sponsored by a particular developer. I can almost come up with names for, I won't do it. But each interest lobbied for an area to be codified in the San Benito General Plan. And now those things have been taken out. And one of them, I think, was close to San Juan Bautista, wasn't it, Abraham?
Yeah, it was just to the west of San Juan Bautista. It's referred to as the San Juan study area. That is correct, and it goes essentially all the way to 101 from adjacent to San Juan Bautista, all the way to 101, and and good
Hello.
good range to the south as well.
Yeah, that definitely would have fallen well within the
Yellow.
planning area that we were.
It would be in our planning area that we're talking about recently.
So, Mr. Giffen, do you have
Yes.
any insight? Can you've heard some of the discussions, seen some of the paperwork. Anything standing out to you as trouble points or opportunities or
Not,
objections?
I would say no problems that I can anticipate now. It seems as though the MOU is where we want to go.
Okay.
It being more of a term sheet or deal points. It's not non-binding in nature. But we work toward an MOA, which is obviously a more formalized final document.
And have you seen the concentric zones in the maps that that have been created?
I have.
Okay, and so that material doesn't cause heartburn for you?
I don't know if we need to be quite as detailed as that, but that's up to the committee. From
Okay.
a legal point of view, I don't see any problems.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. Good.
Well,
Dan, you had a question?
yeah, I think one thing I wanted to add, which will be hopefully beneficial, is the fact, and full disclosure, I talked with John earlier today and reiterated the fact that the posture that the city of, this is my vision, and David, I'm saying, and Jackie in Mexico City, this is my vision as a person, as a resident, as a citizen of San Juan Bautista. This is my vision for what we're trying to accomplish here today. We want to say something as the city of San Juan Bautista with proposed development that happens around us. If it happens very closely to where we are, we want to say a lot. If it happens a little bit further away, well, we still want to say something, but maybe not as much. Everything that we say ultimately has to be advisory. What do I mean by advisory? It means that the San Benito County Board of Supervisors has the final say. They could tell us, thanks, San Juan, but no. We're going to allow mission condos right underneath the mission and a golf course, in spite of the fact that you hate it. In spite of the fact that your planning commission, your city council, and your entire citizenry said, we hate this. We do not want this. The county board of supervisors could still say, too bad. And that's just the way it is. And because it's a jurisdictional question. And we do not have jurisdiction over those grounds. But therefore, the only hope I have in serving on this committee and having founded it when I was on the city council is that I want to give that supervisor who's going to vote to override us pause. I want to give that supervisor a minute to think, the entire city of San Juan Bautista, the entire apparatus of San Juan, a community older than the city of Hollister by a lot. I want to give that supervisor pause before they override what we want. So I want not only to insert ourselves in that decision-making process, but I want our voice to be heard. But as I said to my good friend John Giffen, it's advisory. Could we be overridden? Yes, we can. We don't own that ground. That's the point with all of this.
Good.
Don, you want to say
Don,
something?
Yeah, I just was
Jackie,
getting,
we'll get to you.
I was just getting confused as I went back through my notes and you talked about how a developer would come to us first, didn't like the city's planning commission decision, would appeal and go to the city council for approval.
Yes.
Why? Why, if I'm a developer, I'm gonna go to the board of supervisors and say, by law, you have to consider my project. I'm not gonna jump through all these hoops in the 6 months it's gonna take. I just want to improve my McDonald's on Mission Vineyard Road.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
It is, and I mean, that's where,
Cut to the chase. in other words.
Yeah, I don't know. I've worked with enough developers.
No, that's,
One of
yeah,
the
that's
things
exactly right.
that drives me to think about this is that when I go into our general plan and look what our vision is, and when I go into the county's general plan and look at their vision, they coincide. So what we're saying and what they're saying is the same thing. We just got to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
That's right.
and
Because when it comes to open space, agriculture, it's all there already. So if we're saying we want this designated land to be open space or agricultural, well, we'll go to the county first and we know it's there already. So why are you now changing your mind, so to speak? So when we go forward with this, we go with the assumption that we know where you're coming from already. We're just here to support that
yeah.
That's right.
as well.
That's right.
So, Jackie, you have your hand up. I don't want to. Now you need to turn on your microphone, Jackie.
You're muted.
Okay, so just to follow up on what Dan was stating and David, I think, Dan, you're correct in that the county has a final say on county properties in the county line, but anything that concerns the city of San Juan that's within our city limits, our legal boundaries, our political boundaries, whatever you want to call them, our city limits, they have no jurisdiction or no say in what we do and what we want. So my understanding is that if it's county in the county, and it depends on what part of Mission Vineyard, Dawn, that McDonald's wants to come. They want to come on the county side, well then, yeah, that's out of our jurisdiction. They want to come next to the RV Mission Park, you better believe we're going to be down there. That's our city limit.
Yeah, everything we're discussing here
Right,
is outside the city limits.
yeah. So, but we do have, like I said, this is the right climate because people are really wanting to pull back and think about development. It is a political issue as well as it is a, what I want to say, you know, green awareness, green politics, preserving what we have, looking to really promote our ag industry, our wineries, our national park. All of that has been discussed at intergovernmental meetings, any committee meetings that you're going to, minus the COG and transportation. We're all talking about, hey, we have this right in front of our noses, let's preserve it. So I think that we can work with the county and we can have a seat at the table, not just via our designated supervisor, Mr. Kosmicki, who will support us 100%. And I believe others too, because they're all really realizing that once we put pavement on ag land, it's gone forever. And so people are looking at how we can really, preserve and make commerce and business out of what we have. And as far as what David was saying, I don't 100% agree with you that we have to say that the county general plan has always been in alignment with what San Juanes want. Because we've always been kind of, I think, sort of kicked down the road in some things, but we have good groups now in San Juan Bautista on our committees, ad hocs, city council, planning commissioners, and interested residents that I think are really speaking on behalf of the city. And that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, so I think we've spent some time talking about sort of the parameters. We discussed process. I think we feel that the committee seems to feel pretty good about the process that we've described. We had some concerns over sort of the legal framework or structure that it sounds like we've addressed that today. I would say, and Don, I really appreciate you pulling together the documentation on the other municipalities. That it was very clearly directed, and especially where he highlighted and brought up the points about some of this, some of the specifics that are the supporting information for why we're doing it,
Right.
and really taking from both the Sonoma material and the Ventura County material, because they both apply. In our case, we have a diversity of issues here that don't necessarily exist in both those other municipalities.
And they're expressed positively. They're
Right.
describing what they
Very
can
much so.
do.
Exactly.
And so it's easier to interpret
Yeah.
that. I recall a conversation once whether or not a golf course was open space. Yeah.
Yeah. In my book, that's a clear no, but that's not open space. It is, but yeah, anyway, so my sense of it is that we're at a point where we need to distill some of the language into, and start to create this MOU, which would then be the foundational documents for what goes beyond. Yes, Dan.
And may I add something that I intended to get back to at the beginning, but it didn't. We all have, I think, it seems, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've kind of glommed on to the 3-tiered approach. Is that true? I don't know that we have formally said, yes, that's true. David?
And the language is there on page 2 of your staff report. I tried to paraphrase.
Yeah, no, you did. And you you did it so well, Don, that I actually highlighted it. And I said, boy, that's a good way to articulate that.
Okay.
That's a very great way, when we're talking to other people about it. What are the 3 tiers? Don, I think, stated the 3 tiers very succinctly, but it could be 3 tiers, it could be 5 tiers, it could be 1 tier. I mean, the whole paradigm of a tiered approach is nothing that it's something that I think you and I came up with over coffee at Vertigo as a subcommittee. But what do we think about that? David, do you like the 3-tiered approach? You do? We care a lot, a little bit, not as much.
Yes, I do. I do agree with it as far as the 3 goes, the 3 levels and tiers, whatever you want to call them. If you want to go with 5 and 6 because we have a reason to do that, we'll do that too as well. But I'm good with 3 right now.
But so far you agree with the 3-tiered approach?
Yeah.
And you agree with the kind of the levels of involvement, I think, as the city manager
Yes.
so artfully said in his staff report.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Okay, so that then.
Jackie, do you agree?
Oh, yeah. I have to say it's a good starting point, an excellent starting point. But for me personally, it all matters, because whether it all matters. That's at the end of the
Oh, no.
day.
Yeah,
Because
and
yeah,
Oh, I
but
see.
we,
I
but
see.
we,
I see
yeah,
what you're saying.
but we
Yeah.
have to, put it in terms of how does it really directly
Right.
affect us?
right.
But it all matters with tier 3, even, if they're way out in the East County, and we've only got basically 3 ways out of the county. We
Yeah.
already see what's happening, every day at 2:30 p.m. past the Alameda. So it all matters. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're right. You're
But-
right.
And I agree.
It does. I know it all matters.
No, I just meant that I agree with the 3-tier as,
Okay, well then, I
Done.
always
Can I bang the
believe.
gavel?
Yeah,
No,
right, right. I always, believe in being intentional about things, and am I overstating things right now when I say it is the intention of this committee to adopt a 3-tiered approach towards, what we care about?
Right.
It is. Okay.
I think that's been made clear. Yeah, good.
Well,
Thank you.
it's-
No, I mean,
if
and
it-
you're articulating it here today has made it clear.
Yeah, well, it's clear enough. Okay, so therefore, when you talk about an MOU, for example, and deal points of an MOU, I think John Giffen's ears are probably perking up right now. What would be the things in that memo of understanding? Would it be the things that we've talked about?
Yeah,
In those tiers?
Yeah, I mean, I think the tiered structure is key to it. That's the procedural, the day-to-day procedural. And I also think it draws from language in our general plan, the county general plan, it's the documentation from Sonoma and Ventura in terms of why the reasons behind what we're doing and what the end goal, the goals are, why we're doing it. You know, painting that picture for what we're trying to create. I think all of that is in that MOU. And that is essentially the basis for whatever it becomes, whether it's an MOA, ordinances, what have you. So
Right.
is that,
Yeah,
that's how I see it.
exactly.
Okay.
So what are next steps then, Mr. Chair?
I think Mr. David
Abraham?
has a comment.
Yeah, I was just, when I was talking about the general plan.
Yeah.
For the county in the portion of health and sustainability. There's a section here, number 20, number 21. It says coordinate county planning efforts with those of the city of Hollister and the city of San Juan Bautista. That's it.
Yeah.
So
So
it's there. We got a green light to go forward with this.
Yeah, it's supportive of the whole process. So, and
Hey, I mean, if that's vision right there, right? So let's build on that, on those words.
I guess the question becomes, where does this, we have a reasonably clear picture of where we need to get to.
We just need a draft MOU.
We need to start
John
drafting.
and I need to
MOU.
work on a draft MOU. for
Okay,
this.
so you
And-
guys are comfortable, John, you're comfortable beginning that process?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go right ahead, Dan.
Well, so the question is I'm pointing at the screen to John and to the city manager, our great esteemed city manager. What will be your source material for drafting that proposed MOU? John, Don, will it be the 3-tiered deal point thing that we've been working with?
That's what you just stated you wanted in the
Yeah.
MOU, correct?
Yeah.
So that's what we'll draft.
Yeah.
We'll take this language and plug it in there, and we'll look at the Ventura and Sonoma County examples for findings. We have very similar findings. So I
Right.
think it's important to have the justification of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's excellent. And Ariel and Abraham, are you still on the line? Abraham, do you perceive any roadblocks, any consternation on behalf of the county and us creating an MOU with the county of San Benito? Saying this is the area that we care about and this is what we want to have happen in those areas? What are your thoughts about that, Abraham?
I think I've been following the conversation all along, Dan and team. I absolutely agree with what's been stated. Councilmember Jackie Morris also indicated how the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors have been very supportive of looking at the general plan and looking at the different land designations, and have a big support for ag conservation, land conservation, and others. And so I think that they would be very amenable to partnering in whatever aspects necessary with the city of San Juan Bautista and Hollister, to help in this endeavor. So I think it would be supportive.
It'll be well received by the county.
Yes.
Well, there you go. So in other words, Abraham, you're saying that we have a green light.
I think so. I think that this is I'm liking the dialogue, and I think that if you want to move forward with this, it would be something that would be well received. I feel.
There you go. Okay, thank you, buddy.
You're very welcome.
Well, Abraham said we could do whatever we want. That's what I heard. Thank you very much for the input, everyone. Thank you.
Chair,
Um,
this is John.
yes, sir.
Does LAFCO have anything to add? Or
Yeah.
I would be interested in hearing from LAFCO.
Thank you. Good point.
Hi, Jennifer here. At this point, I don't know that LAFCO has much to offer, except that I think you're on the right track, and that, you know, eventually it will come before LAFCO, but definitely keeping me in the loop and participating in these meetings will help that process and being as streamlined as possible when it comes down to it in July or whatever the timeline ends up being. So thank you for that. But I do think that you are on the right track. And I had spoken with Don last week about the examples that he was bringing up, and there are other examples out there that the committee can make use of in moving forward, drawing some best practices from the various MOUs that are available. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very much.
And I don't know if I mentioned this or if you're aware, but Warner Brothers is filming a little time from now just down the street. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but not really, because this place is special and there's a reason why. Warner Brothers and Sean Penn and Leonardo, there's a reason why they chose it. We have to protect that. It's our jobs. We'll all be dead and gone. And someone will say, like, why was that place not protected, or it was protected? Well, that's our job. And I'm very, very thankful for all of the work that everyone collectively, Abraham, Ariel, Jennifer from LAFCO, Don Reynolds, city manager, John Giffen over there in Monterey and Ryan Ranch, all of us are doing to preserve this special place.
Well, thank you. Any final thoughts, David?
No, thanks.
Jackie, did you have anything to add?
Bien y buenas noches. Everything fine and good night.
Okay. I think unless anyone has anything to add. I guess we need public comment. Sorry, we need to keep up with our housekeeping. Any public comment on our last agenda item? The continue to discuss the planning area policies.
No hands raised at this time, Chair.
Okay, well, would enter a question. Why don't you, what's that?
Okay, so just to kind of put a stake in the ground as to where we are, we're agreed upon the planning area, right? The
Yes.
city council
Yes.
approved that. We're agreed upon the 3-tiered
Yes.
blue, orange, yellow.
I don't know about the color scheme, but yes.
Well, regardless of the colors, but we're agreed as a committee, we are agreed upon
Yes.
the areas that are depicted by
Yes.
whichever color. Okay. And the next steps for this committee are what?
Sit back and relax.
The city staff will be bringing forward a draft MOU,
Okay.
and we will be reviewing what we call the infill development framework from EMC.
Okay.
Probably not before our next meeting, but in the near future. And then going from there.
Is this
So,
committee gonna meet again in March or February now?
we're in February. We should we have a regular meeting at the end of March. And with a little luck, we'll have some sort of draft MOU for that meeting.
That's pardon?
Yeah, at least to
come next month to have a review of what we've done so far and,
Right,
in support of the green lights that we got today.
right.
Okay,
So that will be our hope.
that's your expectation for the next meeting.
Right,
Yeah, okay.
Unless, we're not prepared to do that from staff, but that's what we're looking to staff.
Okay.
Well, we'll see if, how, John does with the MOU.
I don't know if you heard that, Jackie.
Yes, I
see how-
did.
We'll see how John does with the MOU. If it's ready, then we'll.
yeah,
then we'll-
yeah. So we're somewhat dependent on that, but hopefully we're on track. Okay. Okay,
I think it's good, yeah.
good.
And
Okay,
if
let's
staff-
open that back up
If,
for
if
any,
staff needs help for anything, let us know.
right, that's really
If staff needs anything from us or the county,
help.
let us know.
I think we should then open that back up for public comment, since we continue the conversation there.
Mhm.
Any public comment? Jackie? Sorry, go ahead.
Seeing no
Oh.
hands raised, Chair.
Okay, I believe we have completed our agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, well, moved, we have a motion by David and a seconded by Dan. Well, she was after. Oh, Mike, Dan's
No,
mic was off, so Jack.
Jackie wants to make a motion she wants to make an international motion or second.
I think everyone should come to Mexico City, La Ciudad de Mexico. 28 million people and they live in harmony. Come learn, come eat.
Great. We'll get right on that we'll talk
All
about
right.
that at our next meeting.
Okay,
So all in favor, say aye.
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 bye.
We are adjourned at 5:14. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Jackie.
Thank you. Bye,
Jackie,
David. Bye,
have
everybody.
fun.
Bye,
Adios.
Jackie.
Adios.